Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
G'day, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Rhys.
And today, we're finally here with the definitive ranking for the Omen franchise. Rhys, you want to give us a little bit of an overview on this franchise before we get into the definitive rankings?
Okay, so we've finally got here, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. We've had a 70s classic, some forgettable additions, a TV movie, and a surprisingly good comeback. And it really, I have to say that rewatching this franchise and some of them seeing for the first time ever has been a really, really good ride to be on. Despite some curses in the studio and giant metal poles that shoot at me whenever I'm near a church, I loved entering this world. Kane, do you feel the same?
Oh, completely. Because obviously, as per mentioned, you were somewhat familiar with this series. I was going into this basically blind, with only passing knowledge of the original and vague memories. So this was a basically a blind watch for me. And yeah, like you said, it's been a very much a roller coaster of quality and feelings towards this franchise. But all in all, this has been a blast from start to finish. Obviously, some films I'm less kind to than others, but all in all, this has been such a rewarding marathon experience. Honestly, this has been great. My word, honestly, I mean, obviously, I've had hellhounds snarl at me and all that kind of stuff. I did have one of my nannies she did kill herself and all that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and then also, a man in a gorilla suit did try to attack me when I was at the zoo. But apart from that, it's been a great time reviewing these movies, and watching these movies, reviewing these movies, and just talking about this series with you. It's been great. It's also just been great to just get back into a nice horror franchise. You know what I mean?
It's our bread and butter. It really is, man.
Damn fucking straight, brother. Damn straight.
We did get some feedback from our good friend Jacob, friend of the show, who said that he's honestly, you guys should just make it a horror podcast. That's when you were thriving, and I feel a bit like that. We're thriving when we do this. Yesterday I was on the train home from work one day, and I'm like, oh damn, we should do the Friday the 13th movies, and I'm like, oh, we already did that. Damn, I could do them again. Honestly. I feel like that I could do all of those movies again. But you know what?
My God.
But what that made me realize is that there's a whole sea and ocean out there for us, right? We haven't done Halloween yet. We haven't done the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. We haven't done the Child's Play movies, and there's just such a rich tapestry of well-known and lesser-known horror franchises to cover. Obviously with the Omen, it being a known horror movie, but the franchise itself being kind of relatively somewhat unknown to the regular moviegoer. The possibilities are endless, And I'm probably more interested in those weird franchises like The Omen. I am so keen to dive headfirst into the Exorcist franchise because of just movies that have sequels that you have that just go in weird directions that I am baffled to even find out that they exist, sort of thing. What I think made The Omen such a good journey was that was such a great base for a franchise that it starts with, right? Is that this concept of this child that is the rebirth of the Antichrist does open a whole Pandora's box of possibilities. And then for the trilogy to then take you through this journey of this boy growing up and the Antichrist coming to terms with the responsibility that he has, that was I loved this marathon experience, this marathoning experience, and the fun with getting invested in it all. But what I mainly really loved was that first marathoning the trilogy, to be honest. It got me so excited for what we were in store for.
Same here.
And honestly, like, I could probably like rewatch that trilogy every year or so to get me back in it.
Same here, definitely.
And then past that point, probably I'm not as keen to go on to number 4 and then onto the remake, but still, like, you know, that's a part of the journey, and to like sift through the shit to then get to this really good, the first Omen like prequel. Like, well, you would have to, because you know how there's the requel, right? It's like the reboot sequel. What would the word be for this like reboot prequel? Would it would be a pre-boot?
A pre-boot or some shit like that. Like, that's probably the most acceptable term to use, honestly. Like, especially with like how the first Omen ends, opening the doors for possible more Omen adventures. Who knows what could happen, man? We could be doing more Marathon Me updates similar to our Scream and Wimpy Kid franchises, you know?
Yeah, we sure could be, man. And you know what? I'm sort of buckled up for it. So
let's do it.
I think let's get into our rankings. Do you mind if I go first, Kane?
Be my guest, my man. Be my guest.
Okay, here we go. So there are 6 of these movies, and the bottom of the barrel, my number 6 place, can only go to one film here, and that is, with quite a mile of difference for me, is The Omen 4 Awakening. I was offended by how unsure of itself this movie is. It was a boring experience, a painful experience, and if it wasn't for the wacky lengths that it ends up in the third act with this random detective character and having fucking like sights and visions in an alleyway of an orchestra singing to him, if it wasn't for that and a xylophone death scene that comes near the end, then I would want, like, this is going in the bin for me, honestly. I have no intention of rewatching it. Really hated it. Really felt like it had no direction and point of what it was doing. And it, funnily enough, comes from the same directors of Halloween 5, which has a very similar premise, right? Of this little girl taking the mantle of a horror icon and them having no confidence with what to do with it. So Omen 4 can get fucked, honestly. And then my second, my number 5 place goes to, this is probably a bit of a surprise, and I was really balancing out these two. But Damien, Omen 2 is my 5th place. And the reason that this I am so upset by is that it doesn't get to the boring points of Omen 4. And it has some really good potential in it. Some doors are opened that I really, really liked. The idea of exploring this coming of age of a boy becoming a man, and then also a little sprinkle on top that he's the Antichrist, is a great concept. Is honestly freaking marvelous. But that is what I hate about this movie so much at the same time, is the untapped potential, is the sprinkle of an idea with room to explore that idea, but they decide not to. But they decide to have one scene of Damien as a teenager yelling into the void of, "Why me? Why does it have to be me?"
It's the show that he's relatable, Rhys. Come on.
And then the next scene, he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm just gonna kill my classmates in a factory because I guess I'm the devil now." Like, it is so. You talk about this quite a bit. Is the concept of unused potential being more painful at times than just a bad movie, and that's why The Omen 2 is so low on my list, and just below a film that is arguably potentially worse, but I get more enjoyment and less frustration out of it. with
Right.
The Omen 2006, with the Omen remake, which is definitely like a redundant entry into the franchise and can honestly be somewhat ignored. Because it is just an inferior version of the original. It is a film, though, that is probably, it gave me the clearest understanding of how a film can be overproduced and how less is definitely more in certain situations like this, where there are scenes that are just way too big and grandiose that don't make sense being in this freaking series even. That it's frustrating because if you've watched the first movie, then you've already seen this. So there's no point watching this inferior version. But why it's higher in this list than the other two entries is that honestly, there are some good parts of this movie and some well-produced parts, even if they are overdone. That watching this as a standalone without knowing of the original's existence, I can see there being some point to it. I can see there being some enjoyment to be had. And I did enjoy parts of this. I really, really did. I thought that it looked really, really pretty at particular points. They put a lot of effort into the sets and setting. And even though that it feels like I'm comparing this cousin to the mainline family here, right? This feels like a cousin to the franchise, where all the rest are siblings. And I gotta say, I wouldn't mind revisiting this here and there, and could totally watch it with someone if they want a bit of a turn off your brain horror movie.
Right.
But now I'm going past the halfway mark and going to my third place. Now enters the point of movies in the series that I quite enjoy, and coming in at number 3 is The Final Conflict, Omen 3, which is the best campiness in the franchise, does probably some of the best with its Rube Goldberg machines of death, and is honestly an unforgettable experience watching this movie, rewatching this movie, and not remembering a single thing really from the original. I will not forget the way that I felt realizing that a baby massacre scene is happening in front of my eyes. And there are some real interesting concepts here that Sam Neill really brings it to. Looking at some reviews now, it seems like the people do not love Sam Neill's performance in this.
Really?
They feel like that he's hamming it in, and that
What?
And that he's just like not, and that he's completely miscast, people are saying.
That's bullshit. Bullshit.
I could not agree more, man. I could see one more film with Sam Neill playing Damien, to be honest. I could deal with another one. My least favorite thing in this is that they don't give him a ceremonious enough death and just get him, he's just stabbed with a knife and then collapses and is like, I'm dead now, bye. And then the movie...
And then the film just stops. Doesn't even end, it just stops.
Yeah, and then the film stops. But everything preceding that, they're really cool stuff here, I think. Especially the representation of the rebirth of Christ in this like star eclipse sort of thing. Awesome. So much thought and care into that, I thought. And it seemed like I think the people had a lot of fun and had a lot of investment in making this movie, where the ones previously mentioned on this list, maybe not as much, were probably just a job to a lot of people.
Right,
But it doesn't have as much attention to detail, nuance, and care as my number 2 position, which is 2024's The First Omen. A heroic modernification of this franchise, making it relevant to our contemporary lens, being, in my opinion, a complete freaking a statement on Roe versus Wade, and this being like a pro-abortion, anti-religious film, is marvelous. It almost like is too good to be an Omen sequel.
Oh my god, yeah.
Even though that it should have maybe chosen a more accurate title, like as in maybe going for something like, like the rebirth of the Omen, Omen Rebirth, something like that.
Oh, that's not bad.
And they could have also gone with like the naming convention that horror movies love, or like the films love it at all, with just title blank. They love revolution, retribution.
Resurrection.
Resurrection. They love that shit. Why not call it the Omen Rebirth? Fucking, I think, or more accurately, Immaculate 2. That would have been probably a more accurate title for this film. But oh my god, it hits. And if you're listening to this when it's still in cinemas, go check out the first Omen. Oh my god.
Please.
But it doesn't reach the heights of my number one position, which is the original Omen film from the 1970s. This is a lightning in a bottle feature where it just it could not be made again because of all of the little parts that give it so much power and weight. And one of those massive parts is Gregory Peck, and not just him, this extremely skilled actor, like stooping low for this horror film. It's him at such a point in his life where he would have been nothing darker, nothing more soul-wrenching than the suicide of his son. Could have made this a more fitting performance for him, where he brings this tragic lived experience into the role and really tells this story about a family falling apart, right? Of this dichotomy between your perfect ideal life and it all falling apart in a single thing that goes wrong, and you being chosen, and the unluckiness of the world and misfortune, and how that can collapse everything. It's a house of cards that gets blown over in one swoop, and that's like, there's so many scenes in this film that are iconic, are probably seen as iconic just because of the aesthetic or how shocking they are, like something like the hanging at a birthday party scene. But what really makes it so fucking powerful and still spoken about and shocking 50 years later is that it means so much more. It's not just this terrifying expression that's happening. It is the sign and symbol of a man's world collapsing, and then that being portrayed, and then the ultimate failure that comes at the end of this movie of him not being able to control his own. The own like manifestation of evil in his home then expands to the entire world, and that is a fucking terrifying concept and a wonderful premise for a film that expertly does what it does. So the original Omen is something to be gawked at. When you said that the original is your favorite, I was thinking in my head, I swear to God, if he says the one that started it all, I was gonna rage. I was gonna fucking rage. I have taken that phrase out of my vocabulary because I think that we have a responsibility as podcasters to not give that shit to not
no. Of course, like not in a genuine sense. Like obviously we've said it and taken the piss out of it, but like in a genuine sense, like no, we gotta get that shit out of our vocabulary because it's such like a trite, very just fucking cliche line that really kind of devalues the importance of the original film, like the Omen, for example. Like that line devalues a film of this like scale and weight and like importance. You know what I mean? And just quality in general.
That is a perfect way to put it, Kane. Because what it says, right, what it implies is that this one is the best one because it's the first one. That is not the case.
So many franchises are that case. Where it's like Friday the 13th, the original started it all. It's not our favorite though. It's not just the best just because it's the original.
No, but that's the thing, right? Is that if you say that it is the best because it's the original, then you're ignoring why it's actually so good. You're ignoring the strength of the film. And that's the thing, right? Is that for something like Friday the 13th, we both very much agree that it is not the best. It is a great placement of ideas and concepts, but then it is built on in subsequent films. And And yeah, and like, but with so many of these that we've done, like Scream and The Omen and like other films that, let's see, what are the other franchises where the first one is the best one that we've done?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, things like that. It just, these sequels haven't reached the heights of this original. And it's not because it's original, it's because it's just not as good as the original.
Yes.
So, Kane, I feel like that we will have some similarities in this ranking, but then also
yes, we will.
Some quite different takes, I believe.
Definitely, my good friend. I was very excited getting into this ranking because I immediately knew that we were going to have differences. So, you mind if I get into mine?
I can't wait to hear you say all about how Omen for the Awakening is your favorite.
Oh, yeah, well, we'll get to that. Don't you worry, good sir. But in complete dead last, the one film in this franchise I completely, like, just do not, flat out don't like, the only film in this franchise I completely do not like is Omen 2006. Because it is nothing to me. It is a film that, well, yes, other films that I may not like as much, but they at least present ideas, which I'll get into. But with this film, I was left with nothing. A lot of the film feels very sterile, very been there, done that. It's very just like going through the motions, very factory line assembly made of a film. No passion behind it, no real care, and not really even a love for the original and what came before. More so just made as a formality to cash in on that 666 release date, and nothing else really. Like, I could never see myself coming back to this movie, honestly, because I get nothing out of this. I don't even really get any, like, form of, like, anger or, like, anything strong emotionally from this film. All I get is just nothing. And that's the worst thing a film can do. I get nothing out of it.
Did you not find the sets pretty, or like...
I mean, sure, but, like... Why would I... But, like, I found the sets of, like, the other films in this franchise pretty, or, like, at least, like, engaging, and I would rather go... Even with some of the sequels that, like, I don't like as much, I'd rather go back and watch those, because at least, not only do I get, like, nice set pieces, but I also get, like, ideas that some are more elaborated on than others. I at least am thinking about it, and, like, thinking about the film as a whole, and not just like, oh, that's a pretty set piece and all that. That looks cool, I guess. Like, with this, it's like, yeah, sure, there's pretty set pieces, but, like, if there's nothing, like narrative-wise, or, like, ideas that, like, I can latch onto, then what's the point? You know, it's like there's no point to it, really. Like, so what? I'm looking at it's like looking at a pretty piece of art that I get nothing out of. It's like, yeah, it looks cool, but, like, who cares?
Can I give you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, all right.
Okay, picture this. It's 2006. You've asked out a girl from school. And, okay, imagine that you're, like, 15 at this point. So you asked out a girl from school, and you roll up to the movie theater. Would you take her to The Omen 2006?
I mean, sure, but that's the thing, though, but the thing is that, like, I don't like the idea of going to a movie just to not watch the movie, you know, as, like, you know, obviously there are films that I enjoy that, like, you know, make for nice background noise, but, you know, I can at least, like, turn around and be like, oh, yeah, I like that, that's cool. Like, with this is just cinematic white noise to me. I don't get anything out of it. If I want to, I'd rather go to, like, nearly any other film, like 2006. I'll take her to the fucking Hills Have Eyes remake or something. Sure, we could consider it background noise, but, like, at least, like, I get something out of it. Like, I don't know, for me, it's like, look, if I'm gonna take someone to watch a film as background noise, I at least want it to be somewhat interesting, to say the least, you know?
Man, I'm looking at 2006 releases, and there were some good movies that came out that year. Like, there was The Departed, the original Cars film, Devil Wears Prada.
Fuck yeah. Like, there's so many other movies I'd rather watch in 2006. Like, bro, I'll take her to go see Cars, bro. Cars is a banger.
Also, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie, came out that year.
Precisely, man, precisely. So many other movies, and, like, other, you know, horror movies that came in 2006. Why the fuck do I want to take her to this movie that is just complete and utter white noise? Like, why? There's no point to it.
Oh, dude, you could have taken her to the capitalistic propaganda that is the pursuit of happiness that year.
Oh, true, man, true. Oh, my lord. And yet I took her to go watch, quote unquote, The Omen, aka just have our eyes glaze over with just an hour and a half, or with like an hour and a half of just nothing, no ideas to latch onto, no real identity, really. There's no identity to this movie. It's just living, it's living in the shadow of the original, which a lot of remakes do, but like, at least with some remakes, they try to do things different. This is just a carbon copy of the original, and I am happy not having to watch this again, honestly.
Okay, Kane, what's your next pick?
Number 5 is Damien, The Omen 2, a film that I'm comfortable saying I don't really like. However, what interests it above Omen 2 is that while, yes, there are ideas that are barely explored, barely elaborated on, they're present, they're there, and while they're not elaborated upon, they at least got me thinking about it. Like, yes, sure, half of my thoughts about this movie is like, oh, all the waste potential, but I at least found myself thinking about this movie more often than something like the Omen remake, which gave me nothing. Like, while I don't like this movie, I at least remember it. And while I remember, a lot of it I remember is because I don't like it, I at least remember that this movie exists, and there are decent stuff. The central performance from the kid playing, older Damien is good. There's some, funny kills. There is some effort towards the making of this movie that at least tries to give it a sense of identity. While it doesn't work, I can at least see that there was at least a little tiny crumb of effort, and it wasn't just made as a cash grab. And that's why I consider Omen 2 a film I don't like better than a film that I don't remember,
Oh, yeah, I totally get that.
Alright, so, now, we got, so those are pretty much the only two films that, like, I can say that I don't like. Omen remake, don't like. Omen 2, I don't like, but I at least have some memory towards it. Now I'm getting into stuff that I actually enjoy. So, with that being said, my number 4 favorite is Omen 4 Awakening.
Dude, I can't believe that you enjoyed that shit. That is...
Is it a good movie? No. I will put up my right hand to God and say it is a bad movie. It fails as a horror movie. It's somewhat incompetently made. It's weird. It's stupid. It feels cheap, but it's just really funny. I had a blast watching this because the film is trying to take itself seriously, but fails at almost every aspect that it tries. With its weird musical cues, its toned down but also stupidly done kills. The central protagonist Delia actually is like one of the few like diamonds in the rough. Like, I think the central protagonist, antagonist, whatever, is really good. And some of the ideas, while they are really stupid, really goofy, with the whole usage of like alternative medicines and like alternative spirituality with like crystals and all this kind of weird aura crap and all that.
Oh my god, all my crystals have turned black.
Exactly. Is it good? No. But I certainly had fun watching it. I certainly remember this movie, and I went into this kind of not really expecting much. I went into this expecting a bad movie, and while I did get a bad movie, I at least got a fun bad movie. I could see myself like getting mates together, getting loaded, and watching this and just taking the piss out of it. Maybe one day you and I need to rewatch this movie together. I think maybe you might the experience might maybe have you soften up a little bit on this movie and do the right thing and put the remake at dead last. But, that's just...
Okay, no, I think that is fair. I think that the Omen 4, The Awakening, definitely is a victim, I think, from me, of loneliness, sobriety, and high expectations, I think. Coming off of The Omen Part 3.
That's fair.
Where there's like, really, when I think about The Omen 4, like, I can't think of any big moments to do with the main character that isn't side shit. All the big moments that I got some enjoyment from was from a character that dies and has barely any relevance in the actual fucking plot of this film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I just remembered the fucking rattlesnake church. What the fuck?
Yeah,
That is insane to me. But like anything with Delia just doesn't feel like it even happened. We're then coming off of the back of the final conflict, and there's all these moments that happen with Sam Neill's Damien that I'm reeling over. It feels like that it has some sort of relevance in the continuity of this franchise.
That's fair.
With Delia, it pretty much could just be like introduction that she is this girl and she is creepy, and then the final scene. Like,
that's fair. That's fair enough and all that.
Yeah. Definitely a victim of being by myself.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. That's honestly that's how I felt about Omen 2, where it's like Damien, he's there, but like he doesn't have that same presence that he does in the other films, or even really Delia, honestly, because Omen 2 just moved at such a boring glacial pace. With this, just throwing just all this random shit at the wall, none of it works in a genuine sense, but I got a laugh out of it. So, yeah, Omen 4, not that bad of a movie. Bad movie, but it's not that bad. It made sense in my head. Anyways, alright, so number 3 is the biggest surprise for me. Well, one of the biggest surprises was the first Omen. I'm just so happy that, because this was one of the films I was just the least excited to go in towards. I was interested, but I did not have high expectations. So for the film to be not only watchable and like better than mediocre, but to be a genuinely like great movie, I'm blindsided. I'm genuinely blindsided that like this movie it has no right to be as good as it was, and to be as memorable and thematically rich as it was. With our you guys will know that like our previous episode is like probably one of our more longer ones, because we recorded an hour and a half of content that obviously is going to be, some of it's going to be cut, but like, we had so much to say and so much more to say, but we had to cut for time.
Yeah, we had to reel it in.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much to say about this movie that I could see like you and I like discussing this movie a lot more in future. And please, people, go support this movie, because this is it is worth your time, people. It is worth your time, and that's all I'll say, because obviously we've spent so much time talking about this movie. I'll leave it at that. It's just, wow, a miracle movie, honestly. Miracle movie. It makes me very excited to see what Nell Tiger Free will end up doing later on in her career, because like this is an amazing central performance from her in this film. My God, amazing. Anyways, so now, it's a toss. It was a toss-up, honestly, Rhys. I actually kind of struggled to pick which one would be number 1 and number 2. So,
damn,
I made the executive decision to say that number 2 is the original Omen. Now, these films, Rhys, neck and fucking neck. I will say, first and foremost, I think as a film on its own, technically speaking, the Omen 1976 is the best in the franchise. Yes, it is the best in the franchise. It is a classic. It is one of the only films in this franchise that feels genuinely scary and beautifully directed, amazingly acted. Like, obviously, you know, I won't go into like a lot of stuff about Gregory Peck, because you put it perfectly, but an amazing central performance from an actor of this high caliber that, like, honestly, like, this kind of material would be considered beneath him, but because of, you know, the personal things that he was going through and like, obviously the things that his character goes through in this movie really, like, just elevates the performance and the character and the story of this movie to really feel impactful, which like you don't get in a lot of like horror movies. You know, you don't really feel like that sense of impact and power behind like a central protagonist slash like an actor of, like, you know, like a horror movie that could be, you know, some people would turn their noses up towards, where it's like, oh, this is a shitty horror movie. No, this is a lot more than just that. It is a powerful story about a perfect family falling apart, like you said. And it's obviously, you know, the kills are great. The film looks amazing. Still, a lot of it still holds up to this day for a film that's like, what, like 40 plus years old? Like, amazing, honestly. Like, I have some issues with some of the pacing, but that's more like a personal thing. That's more like a personal thing for me, not a dig at the movie, more so just like how I consume and enjoy media. There's some pacing issues, but apart from that, this is a bona fide masterpiece, I will say. Bona fidely, and yes, it is the best in the franchise. However, my personal favorite is, yes, the final conflict, Omen 3, because this was just I had low expectations for the first Omen going in, but like this one, I felt lower expectations. I thought this one was going to suck dick. With the first Omen, I thought I was at least just going to get something mediocre. This I thought was going to be awful, but what I got was, on one hand, a stupid, goofy comedy, unintentional comedy, but also I felt a genuinely great movie and a great what do you call it? Like just a great story of Damien as an adult and finally actually kind of gaining that power that, like, you know, felt was kind of lacking in the first two movies. Obviously, you know, he has like the help of his followers, the devil worshippers and all that, but what I wanted was like to kind of see Damien in his element, and we get that in this movie. This movie gave me what I kind of wanted, was to see Damien finally get to that level of power that was teased to us in the previous movies. We finally got that in this movie, which is what I had been wanting from these films, and we got that. We get an amazing central performance from Sam Neill, who I don't understand why the fuck people like don't like his performance. Like, can some of it be considered hammy and a bit over the top? Sure, but let's be honest, it's a movie about the fucking son of Satan. Of course it's going to be over the top. It also features the rebirth of Jesus, the rebirth of Jesus, and fucking, sorry, Nazarene, as Sam Neill lovingly puts in this movie. And it's an unforgettable experience with the weird, wacky kills, the baby massacre, the fast track rise to power in this film. Yes, it's not perfect. It also does kind of fail as a horror movie because it's not scary at all. But with the lengths that this film goes to, and the shock value that it left with me, like the levels that this film went to, I didn't mind it. I thought it worked. And also, yes, the ending does suck. That's why that's like one of the biggest criticisms. Like I say, the ending sucks. But at the same time, it is only the last 2 minutes. If I can just watch this movie and then turn it off, right as he murders his love interest child, just turn it off there and just pretend that he won. That's fine. I can live with that. If it's just the last 2 minutes that ruin a film for me, that ruin this film, I can deal with that. Is it the best? Is it like the best movie in the franchise? No. But I can happily say it's my personal favorite. Honestly, I love it, and
Damn.
also I knew that you were going to have Omen number 1 as your favorite, so I wanted to also be different. But also, this is not me just like being different for different sake. This is me kind of thinking, okay, Omen 1 is the best movie, but do I like it more? Do I personally prefer it more than Omen 3? And personally, I prefer Omen 3 just a smidge more because of just how balls to the wall insane it goes, but also still retains itself as a good movie. It doesn't fall into the pitfalls of being a bad movie that I like Omen 4, but it doesn't have like it doesn't have like the just bland nothingness of the remake. You know what I mean?
Damn, man, you're probably one of the only people in the world to rank the final conflict as your number 1, and kudos to you. I'm impressed with the confidence, and and yeah, it is like, I'm impressed, man, and I do agree with you that it is pretty freaking amazing. So I get you, dude. I get you.
Thank you.
When weighing it up with some other rankings all over the place, it seems to be quite like we're on the same sort of path than a lot of people. excluding your number one going to the final conflict.
Yeah. Of course. I was not expecting this to be a unanimous. My ranking to be unanimously agreed upon. Where it's like, yeah, I like number 3 the most. Yeah, obviously, but I'm assuming that unanimously it is like not Omen 1 is ranked the highest in like most other people's franchise rankings. I'm assuming, yes.
Yes. Yeah. And also,
of course.
And now with the first Omen coming out, pretty much all rankings that include the new one are having the first Omen as number 2, like just below the original.
That completely makes sense. Honestly, like, yeah, that's fine. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of lists really do not like the final conflict.
Ridiculous bullshit. I mean, you know what? Rhys, we've been in this position before, man, with people shitting on our golden child that is Friday the 13th Part 3. We're used to this. Even though I know number 3, I know Final Conflict is not your number 1, but we are
but still love it. Really enjoy it.
Exactly, and we're experiencing that same issue with Omen 3 being ranked the lowest, similar to Friday the 13th Part 3 being ranked the lowest, unfairly, I might add.
It is really interesting that we'll have these really contrary opinions from, like, the majority. Like, as in, and a lot of people quite seem to like Damien Omen 2.
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't get it. At all.
Me neither, man. And it's interesting that we both have these very, like, contrary opinions to the masses, but then, even when we're watching it separately, by ourselves, we'll have similar thoughts.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And we both also like very different things about movies at times. But then, like, both of us loving Part 3, but then hating Part 2, which seems to be against what a lot of other people think. So, yeah, it is weird, but it shows that we're kindred spirits, Kane. Kindred spirits.
It shows that we are interconnected. You know what I mean? We're fuck. I don't know what the terminology is, but you get what I mean. I get what you mean.
We get each other. There's one piece of additional media that I feel like that we do need to bring up that we have not consumed in the continuity of the Omen franchise.
Right.
Do you know about the Omen TV show?
I actually just found out about this literally right before I went to bed because I was watching some reviews for the first Omen and I saw a YouTube comment mentioning this TV series and I'm like, what the fuck? What is this? Would you care to explain?
I gave it a bit of a watch and it's from 2016 is such a... So it's from the A&E network, which is very much sort of like a CW sort of thing. It feels really low budget and low production quality and essentially picks up between the Omen 2 and Omen 3, where Damien is an adult, but a bit of a younger adult, and he's just some dude. By the looks of it, it sort of ignores, like, he's not going down any sort of, like, political route. And it's really gothic and edgy, and Damien is toned as fuck, and they really, like, play on this, like, sexy Damien sort of approach.
You know what this sounds like? You're just describing Lucifer right now.
Yeah,
you're just describing the show Lucifer. What the fuck?
I was thinking the exact same thing. Have you ever given Lucifer a go?
Yes, I have actually. I'm actually quite familiar with Lucifer. I've watched quite a lot of episodes. I watched pretty much all of season 1 and 2, and then some of the final season. I quite like the show Lucifer, honestly. And what the fuck?
I gave Lucifer a couple of episodes and did not like it. Was not into it at all. Were you
watching it by yourself?
Yeah. I was watching it by myself on Netflix.
I probably maybe got a bit more enjoyment out of it because, like, I don't know, I liked kind of like it's kind of schlocky, it's kind of shitty, but I like it. But also, I was watching it with my girlfriend at the time and all that. Like, she was the one that put me on it, so I probably like the viewing experience as well made me enjoy the show a lot more. You know what I mean?
You know what's weird? Coming off of the back of us talking about the complimentary titles of Immaculate and the first Omen, is that Lucifer also started in 2016.
Oh shit!
So Lucifer and the Omen would have come out at the same time. That's
fucking insane. Well,
really
look,
strange.
There's at least some There's some difference between both these series because obviously Omen is about the son of the devil. Lucifer is about the actual devil. So there's little crumbs of differences. But yeah, I get what you mean. There's like still same shit, different coat of paint almost.
Also, for clarity's sake, sorry, the series is called Damien. It's not called The Omen. Sorry. Okay. Got to clear that up.
It's okay. You know, we don't want all 5 of the fans of the Damien TV series coming at us with pitchforks and torches. Sorry, guys.
The defenders. Well, here's the weird thing about like the Damien series is that it's got 14% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics.
Wow. Okay.
But 83% from audiences.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So it seems like fans quite like this. Fuck me.
Yeah, strange, man. Or maybe, you know what it probably is? Because Rotten Tomatoes is such a black and white platform, right? It's like, it's either good or bad. Where like, I think with TV series on Rotten Tomatoes, right, critics would be looking if this is good or it's bad. Where I think audiences would be looking, is this watchable? Did I want to continue watching? And I can totally see people being like, I'm curious to see till the end, see what happens with this character. So then they watch all the way through, or someone be like, you know, he's pretty hot. I'm gonna watch it for like this bloody demonic ripped dude. And getting all the way to the end, being like, okay, this is acceptable.
Yeah, I've had series like that. Like, did you ever watch the Mist TV series that came out a couple years ago?
Dude, I was talking to someone at work about this like 3 days ago. That's really
legit?
Interesting. That I did watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember watching it and like I saw like people fucking hated this series. Like I don't know what the fan reception was. I think fan reception was kind of mixed, but I remember critics not liking this series at all. I really enjoyed it. To be fair, I watched this like back when it was like 2017 and all that shit. Maybe if I rewatched it, maybe I might not like it. But at the time, really enjoyed that series and was actually upset when they cancelled it. So, you know, like it is true that like, you know, critics can deride a series, but as long as like the audience, if an audience member is like at least deems it watchable, then it's a different experience. Like, is it the best thing ever? No, but like I thought it was watchable. I wanted to see what happened. So, you know, it was that.
You know what's weird is that 60% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes for the Mist series. 46% audience. So the audience score is lower for that.
Okay, then. Interesting.
But you know what I feel, though? I feel like people, like audiences would review bomb this because it got cancelled and be like, what the fuck? I've only heard half of a story now and I'm never going to hear the other half.
Right, yes. Okay, that's a fair point.
Well, the main thing that I remember from the Mist series, without a doubt, is in the last episode, it was the first time that I've ever heard the song "Perfect Day." Do you know that song?
By Lou Reed. Yeah.
First time that I ever heard that song.
Bullshit. Wait, when the fuck did you watch Trainspotting for the first time?
Don't know, but well, maybe I heard it before, but didn't consciously acknowledge it and be like, oh, I really like this.
Right. Okay. Because like I'm very, very familiar with the song. Obviously, we use the backing track for our student film seasons. Funny enough.
Perfect. Oh my god! I did not even notice that. I did not even know
during our famous fight scene. You know, I include
the fuck. Oh, how did I not realize that? It's because it's slow and like a piano version of it, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, back onto the Omen. So there has never been a video game of based off the Omen, but there was a very, very popular game called Lucius.
Yep, I knew you were gonna. I was waiting for you to bring that shit up, man. Yes.
And like. I pretty much mainly know about this because of it being super popular on YouTube at the time.
Who'd you watch play it? I watched PewDiePie play it, of course.
I watched PewDiePie play it as well. Yeah.
Yes.
And I gave a little bit of gameplay a look to like refresh my memory for this, and it looks like a really great Omen video game because your whole thing, right, is that it almost plays a little bit like Hitman, where you're you're orchestrating these like Rube Goldberg machine like death scenarios for these people, which is exactly what an Omen video game should be like if it existed.
Completely.
So that's like pretty much most of like the subsequent media there for the Omen franchise. Is there anything that I'm missing?
We've had like parodies and all that. Like the one parody I can think of is there was an American Dad episode where it was like a Christmas special where like Jeff adopts basically like a Damien archetype and all that, but the kid's named Nemo, which in backwards is Omen. And I remember like that episode like really sticking out to me like when I was younger, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. But yeah, that's the other contemporary media Omen related that I can think of.
Really spoke to me as a kid. It really did.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh, definitely. Yes. And then wasn't there like a South Park episode where there was a kid named Damien and he's saying he's the spawn of Satan or some shit?
I think so.
Yeah, I haven't watched South Park in God knows how long, so I'm not really one to speak on that shit.
Well, there was also another attempted Omen TV series in the mid '90s that had a pilot that aired on NBC. And then it just never continued on after that.
Oh wow! Okay.
So there was an attempt at least. Apparently, not very good. So obviously, why it didn't go past the pilot stage. And also, only being 4 years after the made-for-TV movie Omen 4: The Awakening, I'm probably glad that this did not see the light of day.
Yeah, there's not exactly I don't know, maybe people just not ready, not willing to accept more Omen content and all that. With a lot of the derision towards number 4 and hell even towards number 3 and all that. No one really wanted any more Omen content for a good long while.
Yeah. So, as a whole, this Omen franchise, I think what I've really loved doing after, especially the horror franchises, as well as the other ones other marathons that we've done, is look for this through line, this thematic through line that connects all of these, that is almost like, each movie is about something slightly different, but then hopefully the whole franchise is about something as a massive whole. And I don't think that this one necessarily has a massive consistent through line. It doesn't. I don't think that there was a massive sort of image or vision for what the Omen franchise could be. I think that it was an initial feature film that then just got added and built on with each subsequent viewing. Yeah. But the massive consistency that I do think is here is, of course, this exploration of religion, right? Yeah. And I think the sort of like terror and fear that exists within religion, and I got thinking about this after coming out of the first Omen and liking it and thinking that it was creepy, but I think that this series is the most terrifying and unsettling when the film makes you believe that that this Catholicism is real, that it exists, and the Bible is all true and factual. I think that with that context and with that world building, it becomes a lot scarier. And that made me think that, wow, this is really affecting me as someone that is not religious, that does not subscribe to the Bible or anything like that. And how, like, this very much, though, these premonitions and things do exist for people, though. They do exist for devout religious people out there. And how scary of a place religion can be in the real world. Oh, yeah. Like, these are... And I don't know if I told you about this or not, but there was a dude... I was the other day... And this long weekend, I gave myself an aim that I want to talk to some strangers this weekend. I put those signals out into the universe, and I was hanging out in Redfern, and I set up camp at a table outside of a bar, just reading my book. And I got half a page through before a random dude comes and sits down next to me. And he was really interested about what I was reading, and then he just sat down. We had a chat about random things. It's really interesting when you have a chat with a stranger, and it seems like it only takes about 5 minutes before they bring up God or the devil or Satan or something like that. Right, yeah. And that is what happened here. This lovely guy, started talking about his religion and about the devils and like demonic signs that are all around like all around hidden in architecture and just in like our modern sort of contemporary culture. And then he would start, and then I told him about how I really am liking movies and stuff. And then he started recommending me all these movies that were all about demonic possession, and he recommended that he said that he was really looking forward to the first Omen coming out. He also said that he really liked the Russell Crowe movie, the Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah, okay.
Or is it the Pope's Exorcist or Exorcism?
The Pope's Exorcist, I think. I don't know.
So yeah, recommended that, and I realized that he was talking about how terrifying these films are and how poignant they are, because this is like, to some people, non-fiction. It's of course
it's real for some folks, yeah.
And that is something that the Omen franchise has done for me, I think, is that it has sort of given this context and immersed me and convinced me for the 2 hours of each film, for the duration of the trilogy at least, that this is real for this time being. And it immersed me in that real terror that people have. And that is a skillful, really interesting layer to this franchise that I think is, for me, the through line of what the Omen means.
You heard it here first, folks. Rhys is becoming religious.
You heard it here first, guys. He's converted, and I'm off to. And now, because it is Sunday, I'm going to go straight to the church after this. Get baptized.
As you should, good sir. As you should. That's a good God-fearing man, Rhys.
Yeah.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go put on my fedora and go to r/atheism and go wreck some silly Christians.
So there's definitely places for this franchise to go, but it might not need to, because we know the special number of this franchise, right? And with the first Omen just happening, we are at special number 6. So maybe it's the perfect time to put a cap on this franchise. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the arse.